everybody. Everybody assembled here. So this is our, I guess, third Jitsi meeting that we're having for the homebrew group. I guess every 2 weeks, and then interspersed with our regular meetings where there are presentations and that. So nobody came back to me with any topics or presentations particularly that they wanted to discuss or bring about. So I think we're going to keep this fairly open. I mean, there's the 5 of us here, so we can just have a, whatever, a chat. Couple housekeeping things. Oh, there we go. We have a new arrival. How are you doing there, sir?
Fine, let me get it set up.
All right. So try to keep your microphones muted if possible. I think I can actually mute everybody like that. No, I can't because I hit the wrong button. Mute everyone. So there you go. Spacebar is your push to talk, which I think is handy. I didn't mute myself, hopefully. I'll also be talking into space. But yeah, it just reduces some of the ambient noise, although, I don't think we had too much of a problem even then. This Jitsi platform seems to be working pretty well as far as I'm concerned. So, there is that list that I put out on the meeting invitation for shortcuts for Jitsi. So that's handy. For instance, R to raise hand and R to lower it as well. If you have something to do, raise hand. Lower hand. Anyway, so that is that. Wasn't sure how many people we were going to get, but looks like we have about maybe half or not quite, maybe a third of what we had last week, which was 17, I think, at the peak, something like that. So anyway, so here we are. What I guess has been going on in everybody's individual realms over the last week or so. I know I can say that I haven't been doing a lot myself. Unfortunately, I was hoping to get my bench at least cleared off of all of the projects, but didn't even get to that this past weekend. So, well, another weekend is upon us in a couple days, and hopefully this will be the weekend. Unfortunately, too many chores around the house and the farm for myself, so not a lot of excitement on my end. But I did see that posting that Brian, I think, put up that looked kind of interesting. The secret world of scope probes. Has anyone actually read through that document or looked at it? Brian, you're on the call, aren't you?
Yeah. I looked through it before I posted it. So it did look like a bunch of ephemera. So I thought people would be interested, and there was some stuff in there that maybe needed to be known by some people, including me.
Right. Would you say that's someone who's got experience would get most benefit, or is that entry level?
I think there's probably nuggets in there for a lot of people. Where it came out of was a guy that had some scope probes and the nice clips on the end, and he thought, hey, I'd like to use those on my voltmeter. Well, you can't because of the internal resistance of the probes. So that's where it came from. Like, you should know what's inside those probes so you know what's going to happen when you attach it.
Okay, right. Got it. Okay, so it's basically a what are insider's guide to what goes on with the probes. So interesting. Okay, well, definitely some bedtime reading there, I guess, for whoever's interested. Welcome. We've got another attendee who's on the call, so that's great. So yeah, I know these meetings are too brief, and the point of this is not to be particularly a learning forum necessarily. It's more of a sharing forum, but that was something that's crossed my mind is maybe we should look at something along the lines of someone who's got some expertise in a particular area or niche to maybe utilize an online format separate from our weekly roundtables to go over topics that they're familiar with, because I think there's a fair number of people in the group that might benefit from like almost like a little webinar, an hour-long discussion if you feel comfortable and knowledgeable and all that on a particular topic. I know I would certainly be signing up for that. So I don't know what you guys think of that possibility, but this platform I think is definitely amenable to that. So again, I don't really have a whole lot of things to discuss other than I've got a whole lot of books that I have purchased over, that's the right way up, over the last few years or whatever, that I would like to definitely get into and start learning a little bit more about some basic stuff, basic antennas. I don't. These are both, I guess, ARRL things that I've picked up at Hamvention when I've renewed my membership. They usually toss you a bone or whatever, and so I get a little collection, a little library of all these books. But I've done the basic course a couple times now, and some of that stuff does stick with me and all that. But you never really get into depth in any particular topic, and that's something that I'd be interested in if anyone is willing to take that up as their experience can provide. I know there's that webinar coming up this Saturday, right? That was mentioned, being put on by the VHF group. Is that I think that's the Toronto group? Does anyone have any information on further to that?
I forget actually who's doing it. Dana Chaton is doing that from RAC.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's the Ontario VHF Society or who exactly. But I guess they're doing it through Mark, I guess. But I'm not too sure the particulars. I mean, I saw it. I'm not sure if I'm going to sign up for it or not, but we'll see.
Right. Yeah, there wasn't a lot of specifics, but yeah, I know I've seen his articles in the TCA. So, there's obviously a subject expert by the looks of it that could certainly be sort of interesting and educational, right? Something that we could learn about. So, anyway. So that's what I've been sort of thinking about, looking at how we're getting a little more comfortable with these online sessions, using them for education as well. Has that ever actually happened at the homebrew meetings where we've had sort of like a dedicated whole meeting to, one particular subject area, or done it as a, sort of teacher-student kind of thing? Has that ever been done in person?
No, we have often had presentations that have went quite a while, but part of the structure of the meeting itself is to let everyone discuss what they're doing on the bench and ask questions. So we've never scheduled one that the entire period would be taken up by one subject, but it is possible.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Well, again, we seem to have, more or less unlimited Wednesdays to play with here if we want to schedule something in on any of the gaps on the calendar. So that's something that I'm definitely game for. If again, I don't think there's a whole lot that I would be able to bring to the table unless there was a bunch of total new people to the hobby that would be interested. But there you go. So
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you know? Can you see if my hand is being raised?
Yes, it is. There, it's raised.
I've been raising it for 10 minutes.
And now it's down. Problem is, it's not very obvious because there's lots of little things flashing in and out of existence. So I don't know. Like it'd be better if it blocked your face totally. Maybe.
See, because it's like you're now 3 topics beyond what I wanted to say.
I see. You know what? It should make, like, I don't know, a little box around the screen. That would be a request for improvement. But anyway, my apologies. I'll try to keep a closer eye on that. So let's reverse 3 topics.
How about something like this?
Yeah, that actually works better.
I thought actually when you raise your hand, it was on the bottom left-hand side of your screen that a box would come up.
I haven't seen any of that, at least on the web, client that I'm using here.
Well, that's what I see right now. There was two of them.
I just saw a box come up, but I can't swear I've not seen that before. But anyway, okay, well, yeah, I saw it that time. So,
Okay, so you learned something new today.
yeah. So, was there something from 3 topics ago that you wanted to mention, Peter?
Well, yeah, I was just going to comment when we were talking about the probes. I haven't read the article that Brian has sent out yet. Oh, there's a poor excuse, a bit busy, but I mean, but I do intend to read it. And probes are of an interest in a couple of areas for me. One, I even sent an email off to Al. What's this called? W2EAW, I think it is. Who does all the videos.
Yep.
But he did a video one time about scope probes and whatnot, and he made up these little spring kind of contraptions that would fit around the probe in order to eliminate the ground wire off of the probe, and that's what he did and put them onto his circuit board. So I thought, well, that's a good idea, because by now this time I had learned that using the ground wire on your scope probe really can skew your readings. So I spent, since eBay's your friend here, I would just order one little, I think they're called NCX connectors, like the next size down from SMA or something, all that same kind of thing. But I never did find the right one, because I thought they were so close in the dimensions. I thought, you might be able to push your scope probe into it, and it would make contact to the ground grain on the probe. But I could never get one the right size, and they were cheap enough, if I could find one, that you would buy a whole slew of them, and then you could solder them directly onto your circuit board as test points. But I was not too successful in finding that one there. But if I ever find one, I think that'd be a real handy thing to have. Otherwise, like I say, in the case of Al, he takes a piece of wire and makes a little spring kind of a wire wrap, if you will, around it, and that's what he uses and solders that to his circuit boards. But the other topic on the on probes was, well, I forget which project we were involved with, but it involved a lot of reading really low signal levels. So of course, it wasn't too long before active probes started to come into the equation, and then when you start pricing out active probes, they can get pretty pricey. So I thought, well, why not design one? So I went as far, I could never get one I was trying to design one from 1 to 30 megahertz, but I could never get it to be completely linear across that whole swath. And I really wanted to do one probe that would do all. So I kind of abandoned the project, but I've since come back around. My thinking again is to actually design 2. So I haven't gotten back to it yet, but it is in the back of my head to work on an active probe circuit again. But this time, tone down the specs and design one for 1 to 15 megahertz and the other one 15 to 30 megahertz. And that should be a pretty linear device. So anyway, that's all I had to say about on the probe topic.
I know last year I was trying to get into a tutorial of sorts, I guess, on scopes. I think I came across a recording that was multiple hours long. It was basically a recording of a classroom put on by Tektronix, I think, but I'm not sure about that. Does that sound familiar to anyone?
I know Tektronix does one, I guess, but there's somebody else out there. Keystone, is it Keystone? No, not Keystone. Whatever. There's a couple of them out there that have a lot of webinars on a multitude of different subjects. Rhodes Schwartz. They're another one that has a lot of webinars. And actually, I think Dwayne sent out a link to one of their webinars coming up as well.
Yeah, that's right. I think those dropped this morning, right? Wasn't it 6 a.m. or something like that? Be available at your leisure to watch. But yeah, it was May 6th today that they were going to, I don't know if all of them or, just one a week or something like that were going to be available. But yeah, that was more just RF, I think, in general, from what I recall. But yeah, that's definitely bookmarked.
If you go through their website, you'll find that I think a lot of them are already on demand. You can just go up to their website, search through it, and you'll find it. And you'll find RF Basics 1, 2, and 3 is available, and a few others.
Yeah, so I was just curious if there are any, recommendations for, scope tutorials, I guess, that, vetted, recommended kind of things that anybody has experience with, for someone who's pretty noobish to the topic.
Keep my eyes peeled. Actually, one last comment I have on, at least I think it's one last comment on the probes. When I was doing trying to design the active probe, I tried just to do a rough simulation of the characteristics of an ordinary probe. And you kind of think, okay, resistance and capacitance and stuff like that. Anyway, I was on the linear technology site looking for, I don't remember what now, but I stumbled across, they had an LT Spice demo circuit for an oscilloscope probe, not an active probe, an oscilloscope probe. And it absolutely just blew me away what they put in for their, for what the characteristics of a probe was. There were so many inductors and capacitors and who knows what in there. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, if I dig up the circuit again, I'll post it and you can see, but it's quite elaborate. So my little resistor and a capacitor certainly wouldn't have cut it with the LT.
Like probably most of us, I have an old tech analog scope sitting around. Does anybody know of anyone in the GTA or that's connected to any of the clubs that are whatever gurus with scopes as far as servicing, troubleshooting if there's something minimally wrong with it? Anybody have any comments on that?
Bet you there's a Groups IO site for Tektronix. HP has a really active one, but I know that doesn't do any good with a tech scope.
Right. Okay. All right. Just curious. I know sometimes there is some local contact in the area, but anyway, so on the shelf it sits, I guess, for the time being. So, all right. Well, why don't we maybe just go around clockwise around the screen here. I guess that would be starting, well, at least on my. Oops, sorry. That would be you, Al. You want to maybe chime in with what's on your mind, what's on your bench, anything that you'd like to discuss.
There we go. That's better. All right. Well, not too much to report. My vacuum tube DC receiver is making some progress. Isn't it true? You think you know something until you try to build it. It doesn't work. And then you have to start learning, and you get on the internet and pull out all the textbooks, and that's really when you learn. Anyhow, I've been working on the mixer. I don't know whether we can see that, but there's my, get up there. That's my mixer. It's Manhattan style, and seems to work. Actually, I have to thank the group for the signal generator. I needed 2 signals simultaneously. So prior to that, I only had one signal generator. So I was able to prove it out, although when I get down to audio frequencies, I think it's beyond the range of my analyzer. So, but if I put, say, 7 and 8 megahertz in, I get a beautiful 1 megahertz peak. So it does seem to be working. One interesting thing, I stumbled on it. Maybe you guys have done more Manhattan style. I've already done this, but I was cutting up some strips to do this Manhattan style. And then it occurred to me that I'm cutting these strips with a bandsaw in the workshop, which means now I'm not limited to just straight in or I would say rectangular cuts. I can actually do a cut, an L shape, a C shape. It's quite interesting. So it actually starts to come looking like a bit of a PC board. Before I go on, is everybody hearing me? I hear Eric, or I see Eric doing some mouth wagging, but I don't hear you. All good? Okay. So it seems to work. So now I'm moving on to another section, and hopefully by the time all this isolation is over, I might have something that actually works, or at least be a little bit further along the way. So that's where I am right now. So Eric, back to you. And who's next on the screen?
Hey, that worked well. Pass it back to Eric, and he disappears. What kind of a moderator are you?
Sorry about that. Yeah, well, you know what? This door doesn't have a lock on it, so you know when my daughters come in and start raiding the office, I have no choice but to intervene. So, anyway, all right, I caught probably the first third of that, Al, but thank you very much. Appreciate the update on that. It's just a receiver, right? That you're doing, or is it a transceiver?
I actually have a transmitter that I built a couple of years ago, the Novice Special out of the ARL handbook from 1970 or 71, I think it is. So this is just going to be a 7 megahertz DC receiver.
I wonder how that compares to the one that W1REX was working on, the Globe Bug. I believe that is just a transmitter, if I'm not mistaken, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But I think that was its main purpose was a transmit.
Yeah, so go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, you.
Somebody had a comment.
No, okay.
But anyhow, yeah, maybe someday I'll take a copy of the article out of the handbook, or if you get on Google and just type in the Novice Special, and it's a 2-band, a 40 and an 80 band CW transmitter that was published around 1970 in the handbook. So I built that. So hopefully this receiver will build up a little bit of a novice station.
Would you be able to post a link to that article, or do you actually have a copy of that article, perhaps, that you could post on the group's website, or at least a reference to it for those of us that have memberships?
I think I can do something. I think I found it on the internet before, although I do have the handbook. But there have been people that have published copies of that. As for the receiver, that came out of the winter edition, number 181 of the. You see that, I guess, the Sprat, which is the Great Britain QRP Club magazine. So I suppose I might be able to scan that somehow and post it maybe on the website or something.
I think a fair number of us actually have access to Sprat archives. I know I do. I think I am still a card-carrying member of it. If not, I've got a DVD somewhere that has all the back issues on it. So yeah, just maybe a reference to what page, which issue it was in. That would be interesting. So yeah, okay, thanks, Al. Pete, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just a comment with Al when he discovered that one signal generator wasn't enough. I remember I went through a number of years without a signal generator, really. And then finally, we needed to get one, and you beg and borrow. And then it wasn't too long, a couple of years back, well, maybe more than a couple of years ago, I discovered even having two on the bench wasn't enough, and I had to make a phone call to borrow yet again a third signal generator to get going. And I'm thinking to myself, how did I even get along without one for so long when now I can't even get along without three of them? So when the Park SigGen project came along and we had the three outputs on that one, that certainly alleviates the issue. But it's kind of funny how I guess there's like an old saying where as your test equipment grows and gets more capable, your projects can grow and become more capable, and they kind of feed off of each other. So I always say, which came first, the project or the test equipment? I'm not sure which feed off of which first, but anyway, yeah, that's all I had to say.
Yeah, that's where I beg to differ a little bit with Dave. I know he one of his mantras is you want to do things that whatever, make little bits and bobs that you actually have a need for, and I get why he has that mentality, but sometimes it's nice just to build something for future use, right? Some useful, Swiss Army knife kind of tool or whatever that is going to be useful at some point down the road, and when the need is there, and as long as it's not too expensive, at least you have it, right? So you probably learn something along the way, even if you're not actively using it immediately. So, but anyway, there you go. All right, so Frank, I'd say you're the next contestant if you got something to add.
Okay, and good evening to all. I haven't done one single thing on the bench with regard to ham radio. However, I've been very busy electronically, and as I think I mentioned that my Windows 7 machine blew up. The blue screen of death appeared, and I was able to save all my files, and was on the verge of getting rid of Windows and installing Linux last meeting. And Al Wolfrey had pointed me to Windows, to Linux Mint, which I have used and did have a copy, but mine was very old and really wasn't working quite that well. So I went to the website and found out even a newer version, which is 19, and I've installed that, and that seems to be working very well. In fact, Peter says the quality of the video here has improved tremendously. Well, that's no change in the computer, but just a change in the software. And it comes with Firefox. And I understand there's a lot of problems with Firefox and Jitsi, but I wasn't told what the problems were. So I played around a little bit, and I found out that in this configuration, that there is no synchronization whatsoever between the video and the sound. One is lagging the other tremendously. So I installed Chrome on it, and that's what I'm running this evening. So it seems to be working fine. Just one other comment about the Manhattan style, and I have done a lot of Manhattan style, and I've never tried different shapes other than a rectangle. But I have used longer rectangles to fit more components, bigger rectangles if I needed it, and various other sizes. But going the other way, that I made up a jig that I could take a piece of circuit board and cut thin slots in it and make up a Manhattan style socket for some very, very small surface mount components. So that worked out really, really well. So that's another thing you might try on the Manhattan style. So back to you, Eric, and thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for that, Frank. Appreciate it. I'm curious, with your Linux, have you used any of the ham radio software packages that are out there for Linux? Alternatives to Ham Radio Deluxe that run on Linux, etc. Are you familiar with any of those?
Years ago, when I first was involved with Linux, I did downloaded some of them and played around with them, particularly when I was working with PSK 31 and used some of them there, but not within the last 5 years or so, Eric.
Yeah, I'm just curious because, I did do a survey of the land years ago, but just wondering what the state of affairs. I actually haven't been using Linux as a, production machine for better part of a decade now, so really kind of out of the loop now on that. But anyway, it would be interesting to see where it's at. I don't know if anyone in the group has comments on using Linux for ham radio apps, but that's another area to explore. I don't know if are there any people that are in the group that are Linux aficionados, Peter?
About 4 months ago, I guess, when I started to really get involved with some GNU radio, whatnot, we did go as far. I can't even remember what the package is with Linux, and so a bunch of us around here in the Kingston area download this particular package for Linux with ham radio, but I can't remember the name of it. But just to try and get started, I just basically put it on a little flash drive and what have you, and I'll throw it in this computer. But I haven't really done much with it recently. Always planned to, but then you know what? The next greatest and bestest project came up, and away we go. So Linux has kind of taken a back seat here the last couple of months, unfortunately, in that regard. But it was a goal of mine, and maybe it will be again. Well, probably next winter now.
Yeah, I have a feeling if anyone in the club, it would probably be Joe, right? He's got a bit of Linux background, I know. Certainly was running the subgroup here for a while, years back. So, all right. So I guess if you want to just keep rolling along, Peter, it's your turn on the rotation. If you'd like to take the mic and tell us what's on your mind these days.
Oh, okay. I thought I was going to be the last in the group according to my screen, but that's okay. On my bench, nothing much has changed on my bench other than I'm still messing around with my portion of the modification to the Park SIGGEN. I managed last week when we were chatting, I was having problems with the display, and I was just about ready to give up, and gave it the last college try. I got the display to work properly. So off and on the last this past week, I've been working on the RF reading portion of the software, and having some problems there. Nothing is ever smooth, so we're still playing with it. I'm getting closer and closer as we speak. I'm almost ready to throw my hands up and call 1-800-KEVIN, but but I hate to do that. I'd like to try and figure it all out on my own, but I am getting close. I'm not too sure whether I think the input's working, no problem to the control to the nano, but I think somehow the transferring of the data of that voltage is not quite getting passed on correctly for whatever reason. And I can't quite see it yet, but I haven't quite given up yet. But I'm awfully close on that one. The other project that I got on the go or at least in my mind, is we've been playing around a lot with the Hack RF and some dongles and stuff. I might have mentioned with GNU radio and what have you. And a lot of the guys, a couple of guys in particular in the Kingston area, have been really doing a lot of satellite stuff. Not too much on the TX end of things, but certainly on the receiving of weather of the NOAA satellites and some telemetry from other satellites. Anyway, it wasn't too long before we started to think about LNAs and bandpass filters and things like that. So I've ordered a cheapy LNA off of eBay, so we're waiting for that one to show up. And of course, the bandpass filter, I got to figure that one out, so we can see if we can make some improvements on the signals there. And of course, I'm getting hounded by eBay to say how do I like it, and I haven't even got it yet. But anyway, so that's another little project that's on the it's on the list to try. Although the GNU radio and Whisper has also come to the forefront with that one as well. I've got the receive. I think I mentioned last week the receive is working fine. The TX, I still have to do some work on the TX side of things. And I think that's about it for my bench. Comment on Mixer. When Ali, you're talking about learning a little bit more about the mixers circuits and stuff like that. I had a notion of the same kind of thing a few weeks ago. So I started to do LT Spice simulations on mixer circuits, thinking that would answer a few questions I had about it. And while it may have answered some, it also created questions to others. So I haven't quite solved that problem, because I was also doing LT Spice simulation, and I was also using the mixer that we did from the LBS days. And I was making comparisons. Well, actually, what I did was I did an LT Spice simulation of the or of the mixer circuit we did for the LBS project. So I was making comparisons, and everything was going great until I came to one area where, well, it's not really showing that. So I haven't quite solved what that issue may be. And so that's another ongoing project. But yeah, mixer circuits, that's another cool subject, I think, as well. And I think, Eric, that's all I got on from my end at the moment anyway.
That you mentioned about getting the LNA. Sorry, was that for pulling down like weather satellites?
Well, it would be any satellite for that matter. But it was just that some of the receptions weren't coming in well, and others were pretty good and things like that. So it isn't too long before you start talking about how do you beef up the signals. Well, that's where you start talking about putting an LNA, basically up the mast, right, for the antenna. And of course, there was a bit of a push on some egg beater antennas were built by a few around. And I got a bit of material on the floor here to go and build one myself, but I haven't got around to doing that quite yet. But that's kind of what drove buying an LNA. The other thing that did was, too, for anybody, as an aside, if you do buy a Hack RF, you need to be very careful with it. It's very easy to blow the preamp chip on that thing. And and one of the guys here in town did blow his. And it is a real small chip. So if you want to replace it, it's going to be a challenge, and it's not in the best of spots either. So he ordered a bunch off of eBay. We'll see what happens. But they recommend that if you change antennas and do all kinds of things, power the thing down and then change it. So it's not very, the Hack RF is not very robust in protecting its preamplifier. So one way to get around it, and if you Google on the internet, you'll find as well what one guy did, I think a British ham, to get around that problem. Instead of trying to replace the actual chip, he just went out and bought one of those cheapy LNAs and uses that. But anyway, that's about from my end, Eric.
Is there something you could put in front of the preamp to block? Does such a thing exist?
I have not really looked that close to the circuit to see if there is something you can do in there. I've been lucky because I've done all the things that you're not supposed to be doing, and what the other guy did, and he blew his. So I don't know. He might have even blown it with the back and forth in the shack when you're keying up, because we do some of our stuff as well as not just as well as Jitsi, but we may also be going along with using the local repeater to coordinate some of the efforts that we're doing maybe on the HF bands, for example. So it may have happened when he was keying up on the 2-meter repeater, and it was right beside the little bit of stray RF. Might have got it in the front end of the Hack RF, and that might have taken it out. Who knows? But anyway.
All right, so you got to be pretty careful with that thing, because it is not a cheap little piece of equipment either, is it? So, $300.
AliExpress or something, and I know it's not quite the same, and I hated doing it, but the price difference was so dramatic. What can I say?
Right. Okay, that's great. Thanks for that information, Peter. Appreciate it. One question that just popped into my mind: did anyone have a chance to look at the recording that I posted on groups? Did anybody scan through that, or download it, or stream it at all?
I forgot about it. I promise I will look at it, but I forgot all about it. As soon as you mentioned it, I thought, oh, yeah.
Okay, because yeah, I know. I forget who it was. When somebody made a post looking for it, I think it was Alan Wolfrey, that had something he wanted to show someone who wasn't on the call anyway. So yeah. Anyway, I think I did a fairly good job of putting pieces of tape on the floor, editing that for at least a couple hours of my life. So
well, then I definitely will take a look at it. No, I will. And speaking of which, have you heard from Joe?
No, not yet. I think this is day 6. My Gmail client tells me that gave me a nudge this morning saying I haven't heard back from him. So yeah, I got to find out what's happening. He's still alive. News of his demise is premature. So yeah, I'll have to find out what that is so we can get it properly posted. But it is in my Google Drive for anyone to stream on demand or download at their choosing. So it's there. It's good enough for the time being until we find out. I did record the very first meeting we had, but that was pretty amateurish. So I don't know if I'm going to bother doing anything with that. I might just string it all together and put it up anyway. But I learned a little bit about video editing in the process. So there you go. Everything you do, you learn a little bit more, right? So. All right, so Marty, I think you are up. Sorry if this doesn't match the rotation on your screens. That's I figured it'd all be the same. I don't know what Jitsi uses to determine the order of people on everybody's screens, but it looks like you're on a telephone or maybe a tablet that's standing on end.
Yeah, can you tell I'm on a tablet? How can you tell that?
You are in, I don't know, what would you call that? Sideways letterbox mode, big black bars. You look like a flag, basically, the Canada flag, except black bars on either side of you.
Well, I use an iPad here because I'm a Mac guy. And anyway, this is what I've been, I don't know, you can't see that because I haven't turned it around. There you go. That's the Maestro. And I've been trying to, I've joined the SKCC group. And I'm trying to do some straight key Morse code, which is, did you see any of that? Because I can't see what you might have seen.
Yeah, we definitely saw that. You could see the display there and the key in front of it. So sure, yeah, absolutely.
I made a couple of contacts. My straight key number is 22319, and I'm officially a member of that group, although a pretty shaky code right now. I have my 12-word a minute endorsement from 1996, but I haven't done very much at all on Morse code since then. And anything I have done has been on an iambic key. So getting onto the straight key is a real jump. But anyway, you just gotta grit your teeth and plunge in. So Frank should be happy.
That's how long have you had the Maestro for? Is that a new acquisition?
No, I've had that. I probably had the first one that was came out of Radio World. So that was a few years ago. I used to go to the banquet down at Dayton, the Flex banquet, and I signed up there when they announced the Maestro. And if you're in the U.S., you got a discount. And I tried to sign up. Pierre was there from Radio World, and he said, "We're not doing any of that in Canada, but I'll put your name on the list. We're not taking deposits, but I'll put your name on the list." Now, in those days, we waited 13 months for that Maestro. And the guys who put down their $100 US waited 13 months before they started shipping. Anyway, I got one, came up to Radio World, and they honored the price from the year before. And so I was quite pleased.
I only wish it was backwards compatible with my 3000, but alas, not the case. I just get more and more sad when I drop by the Flex Radio booth in Dayton, and they tell me about about all I can do is buy the tuning knob for it. That's it's about as accessory enhancing as I can make my unit, at least with official hardware. So, yeah, no, that's very good. Are there any requirements to become a member of the SKCC in particular? Do you have to demonstrate at least like 1 word a minute or something proficiency?
No, you have to agree that you're going to use a mechanical key, either a bug or a side swiper or a straight key. No other kinds of keys, no electronic stuff. And the other aspect of it is you get your number. It's good for life and it's free. So it's kind of like the Canadian call signs, good for life and it's free. So there's just a lot of activity now, and the guys are going slow, and that's why I jumped in, because it's a good place for a beginner to start.
All right, that's good to hear. At least sounds like they're welcoming. I think most of these niche groups are fairly welcoming to people that have, the keenness to get into it. And I know I see on the postings on the QRP ARCI group, everybody or many of them put their SKCC number amongst other numbers on them. I guess to boast the lower the better. I'm number 2, I'm number 1. So. All right, that's great. Peter, you had your hand up, but you've lowered it. Is that
well?
Go?
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure if I mentioned it previously, but a couple of weeks back, we tried to do a little bit of CW here locally on ground wave, and in the end, it really wasn't all that. Well, first off, we were doing very, very low power, but the band was so busy with CW, and there was a fair bit of the slow stuff on there too. So that's pretty good. So most of us should be able to copy it, But I guess that's just a sign of the times, what we're going through right now. The band was so busy, you couldn't find a clear spot for the CW. I had not come across that before.
Yeah, well, I guess there's no shortage of places to practice, whether it's just copying, listening in and copying, or what have you. Everybody being at home and flexing their muscles once again. So yeah, very good. All right, so thank you, Marty, for showing us that. So Dwayne, would you like to take the mic and tell us what's on your mind?
Okay. Been working on the Uhf Spectrum Analyzer. I've been working on for quite a while now. Getting a headache trying to modify some of the code that's available. That was written with all the options available in their conditionals all over the place. Got a little bit tired of that the other day, so I started looking at the. Peter had mentioned what he wanted to do was modify his signal generator and combine it with my step attenuator. So I kind of did some design work on there. I think I'm going to come up with one that uses probably 3 of the modules, so I can get 100 dB attenuation all the way down. Probably using SI5351, but I'm only going to look for 2 outputs. I'm going to use one of them is going to be straight high level unattenuated square waves. And I found a couple articles on taking a couple of square waves, put them through a mixer with a single low pass filter over one of them and a single low pass filter on the other one to get probably a 1 to about 60 megahertz sine wave output that I'll go into the step attenuator with the SI53 with the 808307 in there, stuck somewheres probably after the first attenuator because of the noise flow there. That way I know what's going into the last 2 attenuators. I should be able to go and set just directly to a specific output level, not just attenuation level. When I get a little bit more stuff done, I'll put a little bit more information on both of those things up in the blog. That's about what I got for now.
All right, thanks very much for that, Dwayne. Can you mention what, is there a quick and easy address for the blog that you could share with us?
kv4qb.blogspot.com.
kv4 at Blogspot. Okay, got it. Just if anyone wants a little bit more information on there. Peter, got your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment on the Spectrum Analyzer that Dwayne's doing. I remember a few years ago starting to think about Spectrum Analyzer and how pricey they were, and we thought, well, maybe we should try and design our own, build our own, something like that. So we started to do a bit of searches, and then I guess it was maybe 3 years ago. It's probably when I first met you, Dwayne, down in 4 Days of May, and we were sitting out in the lobby, and Farhan came down and was sitting around, and he went upstairs and got his spectrum analyzer, his homebrew spectrum analyzer, and brought that down. We had the big discussions on that, and then we came back to Toronto at the time, and then started to work on a design somewhere between that and the following date, and I decided just to go out and buy one. But nonetheless, it'd still be interesting to see what you come up with, Dwayne, on a spectrum analyzer.
The one that I'm doing right now is a simple one. It's a UHF one. It uses a single little module that are basically a UHF data transceiver. It has a frequency range of 240 to about 940 megahertz. It's got variable bandwidths and all the other stuff in it that make a very simple UHF spectrum analyzer. There is another design that's out there that I'm basing mine on. That's on the HBTE Homebrew Test Equipment group on Groups.io, having called the Tiny SA, and they've got some wonderful design going on there, and I'm stealing an awful lot of the code out of there. But like I say, most of the stuff there they've done is, or people have done is all conditional, so they can have different types of display, different types of inputs and stuff, and it's just one huge mess of conditionals I'm trying to go and straighten out just to make simple straight line code out of it. I've got another design I'm going to use for an HF spectrum analyzer, kind of based on the on Farhan's Arduino, but instead of using his crystal filter in that, there's another module, SI4775, whatever it is. It's a AM FM medium shortwave transceiver chip. Cost a couple of bucks. It's got everything in it, variable bandwidth, RSSI detection, and everything. I'm going to try to go and replace the whole half of the of Farhan's Arduino with just that.
Dwayne, I see on your Blogspot page, I just pulled it up there. 3 weeks ago, you had a meeting with Mr. Summers on the line. Any bones he threw at you for the QSX? Any timelines coming up on that?
No, I did discuss a couple other projects that are coming up. And basically, he says he really wish he hadn't gone and announced it quite as soon as he had, because he's running into problems and it's like, well, I need to go and add this, I need to do that, and every the stuff he's been going with has been incidental projects for his business, with other standalone projects he's trying to put out there, and stuff that he can incorporate into the QSX. He still hasn't been able to give us a date yet, but he said he had almost, he's a few hundred short of 10,000 QCXs sold, and I think he probably, if he had taken pre-orders, he would probably have a couple thousand pre-orders for the QSX by now.
Hands up with the group here. How many people have QCXs? All right, well, there you go. So that's about half. Unbuilt, of course, in my case, but hey. Oh, you got to unmute your mic, Peter. Or did you not want me to hear that?
Didn't want you to hear it.
Oh, there we go. Thought so. Yeah. Thanks, Dwayne. Appreciate that update. And I think that's the first time I've been to your page, so I'm going to definitely have a look through that and see what I can scrape out of it myself. So, all right. Looks like last but not least on the list, Brian. If you're still with us, there you are.
I'm here. Hi. Yeah, so on the QCX, I'll start with that, I guess. So I've mentioned some stuff about that last weekend. So this past weekend, I dived in with all three of my feet and into updating the firmware on the chip. I read quite a bit about it, and you can read and read and read some more and still not catch it all. But anyway, using an Arduino Uno and the AVR Dudes software. I attempted to update the firmware, and it kept coming back with errors. Wouldn't read the fuse settings, and you know, I was some degree of trepidation because I didn't want to destroy the chip by doing something inadvertent. But anyway, long story short, found out that I had not set the Arduino port to the same speed as what the programmer was going to use, the AVR-DS. And secondly, despite the fact that all the instructions on doing it said that it was a 328 chip, MTEL 328, it's actually a 328P. So the dude S was coming back and telling me wrong chip, and I can't read the fuses. And when I finally delved in and said, well, it's suggesting to me that it's a 328P chip, let's try that. All of a sudden, the fuses were revealed, and they were what they were supposed to be. So I upgraded it, and that was that. So nice to be able to do that. A couple of things, Marty. Yeah, thanks for coming into Straight Key Century Club. So just in case people don't know, they do have a lot of activities. So once a month they do a weekend sprint. For anybody that's been on CW, you'll know that they come in one weekend a month and do an 18-hour thing. This weekend is one of the sprints, and this weekend the special bonus points go for working people who are new members. So people of a certain number and above, which of course Marty will be one, are worth an extra 5 points. So hopefully, Marty, you can get on at some point in the sprint, and I will guarantee anybody who comes into any of the SCCC events or just goes on that little 7055 in areas that they are commonly found, they'll go whatever speed you want. And none of them are that fast for the most part because they are using mechanical bugs or straight keys or something like that. So that can be some fun. I got big with that last October, and I'm close to 200 straight key society contacts now. So that's been some fun. Another thing, just years, probably 2-3 years ago, Marty recommended if you need some nice little hookup wire, rip open an old parallel computer printer cable. So I did acquire a couple of those for free at Hamfest, and they are a nice source of wires. I had to hook up a street key yesterday, and I just grabbed some wire off of one of those, clipped it in my twist drill, wound the stuff all up so it was nice, and twisted around for a nice little straight cable with twisties on it, and it works nice. So that wire is always handy when I need to just sort of hook something up temporarily or permanently. Just grab that wire. It's cheap and it's free, and it's nicely robust once you tin the ends. I did send a couple emails off while we were talking to people off on the homebrew list. There's some links there for some of that stuff on the Novice Special, and as well as a link for the number 68 of Alan's video on the scope probes and that floating ground or the ground stuff that Peter was talking about. So that might be of some interest to people. And other than that, I got back into looking at my Park SNA because it had stopped working at some point, so I have to go back and take a look at that. I think it's not seated in its sockets very well. Plus, I have to take another look at the return loss bridge. I think there's an issue with that, so that'll be a project for the bench probably on the weekend. And on the QCX, I guess finishing off. So my QCX was a used one. So there's a number of upgraded components changes that Hans had recommended or had come from the user list on Groups.io. So Doug Ford has opened up the stores again this weekend. And so one of the places I get my components from is near U of T. It's a little sub business, but I can get in there again and go pick up stuff so I can work towards getting the few resistor and component changes for the electrolyte capacitors that I want to change to polystyrene capacitors this weekend, hopefully, and proceed apace on that. So I think that's everything.
Is that little shop you're talking about near U of T on College?
Yeah, it's in the basement of the hardware store.
Ah, that one. Okay, right. Yeah, I was there a few months ago, but no, I came across another one that's actually a little closer to University Avenue. I guess it was on the south side of the street because the Home Hardware is on the north, but newer shop. They had a fair number of components, lots of hobbyist tools, that kind of thing. I can't remember the name of the place. I picked up a fume extractor from there, and some other odds and ends. But
La Creatron?
yeah, you know what? That's right. That's
Yeah,
who it is.
they're like just diagonally across from the other place we were talking about. He also has a store in Scarborough as well. The original store had to close on College Street because that got turned into a condo. So they moved to the smaller space on College. But so that was the father and the founder, and he moved up to a shop up in Scarborough, which I'd never been to. And then anyway, the one in College is there too. So it's nice too. I buy stuff there as well.
Yeah, it was my first time in there. I'd heard of them for years, but just happened to have some time idling around. So if you're ever in the downtown area, College, just west of University, Creatron. So, yep. All right. Okay, appreciate that, Brian. Thank you for the update as well. So I think that
Eric, sorry,
sure.
West of Spadina. West of Spadina.
West of Spadina, east of.
It's just about 6 doors down from a little bit from where the El Mocambo corner is, with the Apple store on the corner.
Right.
So, yeah. Right.
I thought Creatronics was east of Spadina.
They used to be until they got turned into a condo.
Sorry? What was that, Brian?
It used to be until he got turned into a condo, so they had to move.
Yeah, so they moved down the street, and then he moved up to Scarborough for another store.
Oh, I see. Okay. It's been a while since I've been there, I guess.
Yeah, okay, great. My bearings are a little bit off there. I was at the Faculty of Pharmacy for a session there, and that's how I came across it. But anyway, so yeah, good, nice spot there. I guess you can hit both of them up. The home hardware seems to still be a going concern, but didn't impress me as much the last visit I made a month ago. I remember years ago being a little bit more impressed with just the organization and stuff they had, but it was a lot of it looking very dated, and doesn't look like anyone's really managing that side of the business at the moment. So anyway, Al, yes, got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to mention with that home hardware, it used to be great when they were in the directly under the home hardware. But last time I was there last fall, they seem to have knocked out the basement wall into the adjacent unit and just shuffled everything into that area. And you're right, it's terribly unorganized. I'm not sure whether they're in the midst of reorganizing or fading away.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff there, but it's starting to look like a little bit blend between A1 and I can't remember that name. The name of the place down in Dayton, if anyone's ever been there, or the multi-level place. Name escapes me again, but yeah, just looking a little more ancient. But sorry,
Was that active?
Active in Toronto, but yeah, A1 Electronics, West End, 427 and Queensway. I'm sure some of you have been in there, but yeah, I'm thinking of a place in downtown Dayton that I've been to once or twice. But again,
Mendelssohn?
Mendelssohn, thank you. Yeah, Mendelssohn. Yeah, that's an interesting spot if you've never been. So next time when the world gets back in order, pay a visit to there if they're still around. So, Brian?
Yeah, sort of. Just a little bit of history on that place in the home hardware. They used to be down on Queen Street, just basically underneath where Active Surplus was. And so when all the real estate there got busy, they moved up to a space not that far from where Creatron used to be. Then they moved across to the other side of Spadina, again on the street level. Then they moved into the home hardware where I think Al was talking about. And then they moved to the home hardware to its new premises and got stuck in the basement, and then got stuck kitty corner in the basement. So I agree. It's not as good as it was on Queen Street, or even as it was when they were in the original space on College. But nonetheless, they're basically servicing the OCAD and the Ryerson and the U of T technical people who are doing development and various other things. So I'm glad I'm there. And what the heck? Might be a bit disorganized and an afterthought, but at least they're doing it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's better to have something, even if it is a little less than optimal. At least it's there, and their organization probably puts some of our organizational skills to task. So, Peter.
Not only that, you can drive downtown there and pick it up and bring it back home a lot quicker than eBay can ship it to you.
Yep, true enough. Okay, all right. Once again, thank you, Brian. And that I guess brings us to pretty much the end of our round table. So, and we're at about the 1 hour mark as well. So, it looks like Peter, you might have some remarks you'd like to make. Closing remarks.
No, a quick question for Frank. If I'm just wondering, Frank, you were mentioning last time we were chatting about the DCR is undergoing sound like a big redesign or a partial redesign or something. I'm just wondering how that's going, or what was the reason for, or what's happening there.
Yes, the change is we're looking at is in the VFO, and it was to try to incorporate a chip that what it was, John had given us samples of back when we were meeting at Safe City offices. And Ken and I were experimenting or looking at it from a design standpoint. Because of this computer problem I haven't done anything on it at all. And Ken was going to set it up on a board to see if he could plug it in, see how it worked. The big problem with it is the spacing of the pins on the chip. You need a magnifying glass just to see them. And the only time I've ever been successful in soldering that pitch of a pin has been with the wick process, blob and wick they call it, where you just blob a lot of solder on and then wick it off and hope for the best. Now trying to get a circuit board etched for that level of pitch is going to be challenging. So that's as far as we've got on it, Peter.
Okay, thanks, Frank. And that's just thinking out loud. I'm wondering if you can buy an adapter board that would have that pitch on it, and then use the solder oven to solder it to the adapter board.
Yeah, that might work. I haven't done the search yet for it. I don't think Rex has an adapter that goes down that small as yet, unless Eric knows something more about that.
No news on that front either. But did I hear somebody talking there? No. So no, unfortunately, no updates I can share with you at this point from him. So, but
what's
we'll keep
the pitch of that chip, Frank? Or what's the package of that chip? Do you know offhand?
No, I don't know offhand. The chip number is 6900, and it's Linear Technologies.
All right. Well, I think that brings our meeting to a conclusion. So I want to thank you all for participating and showing up. I wasn't sure if it was just going to be, me and, I don't know, the Jitsi test server talking to each other tonight. But I do appreciate you spending the hour, and hopefully everybody got a little bit out of it, sharing. We have somebody who just joined us. Look at that. Oh, hey, there we go. Late to the party, but no, there you go. Oh, wait a sec. No, that is you again, isn't it, Marty? Wow, we got two Martys. You've duplicated yourself. Awesome. You're gonna have to share how you do that. But anyway, all right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for another entertaining session. And according to the schedule here, our next meeting is going to be on Wednesday, the 20th this month. We have our regular meeting at 7:30 here on the same Park HB Jitsi channel. So I want to guess wish you all a good evening, and we'll catch you on the groups.io, and see you in a couple weeks. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, Eric. 7-3.
Good night, everyone.
Night, everyone.
Night, everyone. Stay safe.
All right. Thanks a lot.